I mean, there's still not a day that goes by that I don't think about it. I still think about it every single day in one way or another.
20 years ago on County Road 106 near T, Robert Leroy Anderson, in a car and accompanied by a man named Glenn Walker, played a game of automotive cat and mouse with this woman, Amy Anderson, passing her, then dropping back repeatedly.
And we played this sort of little game a couple times until I decided something's not right here, this is weird.
Amy was taking a friend home when one of her car's tires blew out. It was no accident. She didn't know it at the time, but during one of the times when Anderson passed her, he deployed a device called a tire popper, and it worked.
And I just couldn't even go anymore. I had to pull over and stop.
Amy pulled over and stopped. So did Robert Leroy Anderson.
Robert Anderson got out of his car and left the door open, which these things are all things I remembered kind of later.
Anderson got out of his car and walked towards Amy. She talked to him, but he said nothing. She thought he was going to help.
He walked over and he had his hands in his pockets and he didn't say anything to me, and I had my trunk open and I said, well, oh, thank you so much for stopping, trusting, you know.
She had no idea the next few moments would mean life or death for her.
Right, so I sort of bent down to get the jack, and as I did that, he grabbed me around my waist and pulled me towards the ditch.
It was a fight. Amy's adrenaline poured into her body, her strength overcoming his.
I just was lucky enough to be able to just grab the trunk, the edge of my car, and grab the trunk, and, you know, he, I think, kind of tumbled back as I pulled forward.
She wrestled herself away and ran down the road toward an approaching car, praying it wasn't a setup, praying it wasn't some type of backup for Anderson.
I was terrified. I mean, I was terrified.
She went to the T Police Department and filed a report, then went home to Sioux Falls. When she told her parents what happened, her mom connected the dots before she did.
And my mom immediately said to me, this is related to what happened to Larissa Dumansky.
Months earlier, Anderson kidnapped Larissa Dumansky from Sioux Falls' John Morrell plant, where they worked, taking Dumansky to an area near Vermilion. He raped and killed her. Glenn Walker was there and watched. As he did with Amy, Anderson had followed Dumansky in his car and tried to pop her tires, hoping she would pull over somewhere, but she never did. Years later, when Amy heard what Anderson did to her mirrored what he did to Dumansky, her blood ran cold.
Worst case scenario in my mind was rape. In my mind, it never would have occurred to me that it had anything to do with anything else.
2 years later, Anderson would kidnap Piper Striley from her home in Canastota, then killed her. 3 women, all in their 20s, targeted by Robert Leroy Anderson. Of the 3, only Amy Anderson survived.
Why would you think you see someone and you're going to track their activity, you're going to follow them around, and you're going to attempt to do whatever to them? I mean, what would go through your mind to make you think that? What would even give you that idea?
Amy never talks about this story. There are family members she doesn't talk this openly with. So why did she agree to talk with me?
I'm not going to let anyone rob me of who I am.
Amy hasn't let this define her life.
It makes me feel empowered, like I'm tough, and I'm not going to put up with anything. You're not going to take me down.
Amy tells me women need to trust their guts. Video of NFL player Ray Rice beating up his then fiancée. Virginia College student Hannah Graham kidnapped and murdered. In Sioux Falls this year, there have been 4 murders. All the victims were women. Amy wants what happened to her to provide a lesson for all. Trust your gut. If something or someone seems wrong, get out of the situation. She says she wishes she would have listened to her gut when Robert Leroy Anderson showed up on County Road 106 near T 20 years ago.
If I can help someone else pay attention to what they're doing, listening to their instincts, feeling confident in what they're doing, that's a good thing.
This story isn't all in the past for Amy. While Robert Leroy Anderson committed suicide in prison in 2003, his accomplice Glenn Walker is still in prison and is set to be paroled 13 months from now. Amy says she is scared of his being paroled. She says she knows logically he will not try to find her, but he also knows 20 years ago he tried to help someone who wanted to kidnap her.
I can't even begin to imagine what she had gone through in those moments, and her being one of the only ones of all 3 of those women to survive. Why did she tell this story?
She told this story for a couple of reasons. One, she wants people, like she said in the story, to think. Think about your surroundings, think about your safety, always know what is happening around you, which is something that she says she learned and carries with her to this day. When I talked to her, I told her that I'm married. I have a wife and I have 2 daughters now, and I never want anything to happen to them. And could I help her tell this story to make everyone, but women included, think about safety a little more? And she committed to telling that story.
I'm
and
so glad she did.
yeah, Amy, thank you for sharing it with me.